The second lecture on project management will focus on why IT projects fail to deliver business value. And then the last one will talk about some of the remedies for it. So we start with, again, focusing on non-IT managers and why they matter here. Good project management. So IT project management is not very different from project management, and it's indistinguishable from good business management. And invariably, most business management has an information technology element. Information is so critical and crucial for us to do our work, day-to-day work. So any strategic move, a business model tweak, a process improvement, all contains technology, information technology. Now, IT project managers are skilled at managing technical risks. That's their expertise. The business failure component is really in the hands of non-IT managers. Whether a project underdelivers on the intended business benefits. Now, IT project managers are not equipped to tackle this because they lack the business expertise. Non-IT managers' contribution is to get the right system faster and cheaper. Business failure happens from preventable mistakes. The first one we look at is ambiguity of purpose. The first reason that IT projects do not deliver their intended business benefits is not usually faulty execution, but poor communication between business and IT that leads to building the wrong system. The second big problem is unnecessary complexity. As a project grows larger, so does the risk of failure. Software risk defects rise in proportion to program size. A modern car, for example, has 250 times the amount of software code than what landed man on moon. And a small minority of unnecessary complex projects that get completed are more likely to be filled with costly glitches and overshoot budgets and schedule. The source of growing complexity is ballooning scope. That is, scope keeps increasing. And this happens a lot, and I've seen this happen in my consulting days, is this lack of communication between the IT department, which is building the project, and the line managers who want the project in the right at the start of the user requirements phase. Because in the beginning, this is like, doing a house project. You want a mansion, and then you look at the budget, and you realize you can afford a house, right? And so, more complex a project, especially complexity without purpose, really damages the project. And the last part is when non-IT managers are silent on the triple constraint. Now remember, the triple constraint is a project can be fast, cheap, or good. Pick two out of the three. If you need something fast and cheap, it's not going to be very good. If you want fast and good, it's not going to be cheap. If you want it to be good and cheap, it's going to take time. Okay, so this is very important. Now let's go through each one of them. The first one was ambiguity of purpose. As we talked about, poor business IT communication can lead to the wrong system being built. It's rarely because of faulty execution, and essentially the value of a project is the business benefits and not the technical features. Unfortunately, 60% of all IT projects do not even define the criteria for judging their success. A project's intended business benefits define its purpose, clarity of purpose might exist implicitly under the team members' noses, but it often does not make it into the team's work. You need to appreciate the notion of latent needs to understand why this happens often. Uh, let's take the example that of Raid, which is a very successful insect killer. Now, in the late 1990s, U.S. chemical firms, major U.S. chemical firm, recognized a huge opportunity. There was not one single brand of bug spray that thrilled customers. So the company invested millions of dollars in research and development to create the perfect bug spray formula. The company redesigned the can to eliminate the back spray that irritated customers, picked colors that stand out on a crowded supermarket shelf, priced it low, launched a huge advertising blitz, and in the first week after the launch, the product flew off its shelf. And everybody was thrilled, and then the second week, sales crashed. There was number of returns. Company warehouses were overwhelmed with returns, and managers were flabbergasted at why this was happening. So their surprise was that the consumers used the bug spray. The bugs then scurried away and died. And they realized this is not what the customers wanted. The customers wanted to see the bugs die. So the latent need was not an effective bug spray, but to see the bugs die. So perception matters here. And therefore, the whole spray was redesigned to add a paralyzing agent so that when you sprayed, the bugs would topple over, fall, and then die slowly. The revised formula became the dominant brand. And so the firm could not discern the consumer needs by asking them what they wanted. Because when you ask a consumer or you do a market survey and do a focus group, nobody's going to say they want to see the bugs squirm and die. But yet that's what consumers wanted. So a latent need is one that is present and capable of emerging, but it's not yet visible. And you cannot get business users' latent needs. They need to be discovered collaboratively by working with them. Meeting users' latent business needs defines purpose of any corporate IT project. And even the most skillful IT project team cannot build what you cannot describe. Unarticulated business goals lead to lack of clarity about project requirements. And so what this happens is it forces IT project teams into a guessing game. And when they start guessing what you want, it leads to a kitchen sink mentality, which is over-engineered, feature-bloated systems that do a lot of things but do nothing well. It's futile to worry about the details until you understand what the end point is. So why are we puzzled when an IT project team with an unclear destination stumbles? The cardinal sin in IT management is non-IT managers not articulating a business goal. An unclear destination therefore dooms many corporate IT projects even before it started. And this antidote has to be from the non-IT managers. The second problem is unnecessary complexity. The second reason, when we talked about it, as a project grows larger, so does the risk of failure. And the small minority of unnecessary complex projects that get completed are more likely to be ridden with glitches, costly glitches, overshooting budget and schedule, and it becomes a problem when a system tries to do too much. And this is kind of what we call a scope creep or ballooning scope. And so here is a small matrix. When you have low requirements, clarity, and low complexity, we say it's a rudderless boat. It's a solution searching for a problem. When you have low requirements, clarity, but high complexity, this is a huge gamble, a costly endeavor without realistic benefits. which is complexity without purpose, which can be really, really expensive. It's a lethal combination where you don't know where you need to go, and it's very complex. High requirements clarity with high complexity is a high risk project, but at least it's viable. And so you need to prioritize requirements. Again, options thinking would be useful here. And once you prioritize the requirements, it moves it into low complexity, which actually is where you want to be. Now, finally, you have the trade-offs. You have fast, you have good, and you have cheap. So pick 2 out of the 3. You cannot get all 3, and this is where there is a problem, because when you talk to most people, when there are IT projects, we often hear a need articulated where people want something fast, they want it cheap, and they want it high quality. It's just not going to happen. So failure to make one trade-off, you've got to choose, drop one. If you want something fast and cheap, it's not going to be a good project. And usually what happens is, I've seen a lot of IT projects, and I've managed a lot of crisis projects which are under crisis. And it's usually because none of these 3 are explicitly articulated. The company wants fast, cheap, and good projects, and so then it is dumped on the project team. The project team has a schedule, and so then they look at fast, and they don't have enough resources, so they do cheap. And since quality is decided right at the end, they just drop the quality. So then they do a fast and cheap project, which is a project which should have taken 2 years. They try to get it done within 6 months. They commit for 6 months, finish it in 9 months. It's got a lot of bugs because it's not good. The project team has worked all through the night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, got it done. But the project team does not deliver a good project. They are unhappy. The client is unhappy because the client expected this to happen in 6 months, got it in a year. So the client is unhappy, and everybody is unhappy in this without making these explicit trade-offs. Trying to achieve all 3 often achieves none. Non-IT managers must pick which one they want to give up. And it has to be driven by a project's business objective. If time and money are scarce, curb your scope. Make the project simple. If you want something which is cheap and then fast, make sure you have a limited project. And so these are important. The 3 criteria is really important, and it's something which non-IT managers can control. Now let's look at some risks beyond non-IT managers' control. Non-IT managers must accept project risks that they cannot change, and change the ones they have, and should know what the difference between the 2 is. So 2 risks beyond their control. One is the project's use of immature technology. And there is a difference between uncertainty and ambiguity. No amount of project management rigor can overcome uncertainty that comes with a technology which is immature and is used in a project. There is a huge difference between uncertainty and ambiguity. So project management can tackle ambiguity, but uncertainty goes back to options thinking. Second, how well a project is executed operationally is judged by how far off it is from its initial cost and schedule estimates. Initial estimates that are too low can make a well-executed project look like a financial disaster. Unfortunately, IT units tend to consistently underestimate IT project costs and schedules for 2 reasons. First, Projects that ask for smaller commitment of time and money are more likely to be approved. And to lower what they ask for, they often build insufficient slack, slack into their schedules. So imagine a CFO's reaction to an IT manager asking for a slack of 3 months in a 6-month IT project. However, over-promising at the outset invariably leads to under-delivering. Second, IT projects estimation is more an art than a science. There are a lot of project interdependence, so one part delay in one part then kind of cascades through the project, and the heuristics of even the most experienced IT manager cannot extrapolate reliably in unfamiliar market contexts and novel problem domains that an IT project might involve. Project complexity worsens, underestimates a project completion time, and more interdependencies a projects have, the more a multiplier effect can derail its schedule. So the antidote to such pathological underestimation is to triangulate initial project estimates using multiple estimation techniques to reliably arrive at a close enough approximation of person hours of effort needed. Aspire for roughly right ballpark estimates using what we call as the t-shirt sizing rule: small, medium, large, rather than pinpoint accuracy of dress shirt sizing. It is better to be roughly right than be precisely wrong. Modern IT project management methods can systematically refine initial methods of a project proceeds. You don't want them to err on the wrong side. With this, we'll stop the second lecture and we'll move on to the third lecture, which talks about the antidotes to business failure for IT projects.